In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod.
In partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McKeown.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 83 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at a pit stop in Northern California on our journey from Portland, Oregon to Southern California. After we finished interviewing Samuel Torres, a nut farmer from our last episode, we started drawing some attention with our mics and our cameras, and a nice woman named Cindy Bowman came up to us and mentioned that we should meet her husband, Dale Bowman. Talking with Dave through the passenger side window with his grandkids in the back seat, we found out that Dale is a sailor and adventurer, and on July 12th, 2019, at 66 years old, Dale took a 22-day solo sailing trip on a trimaran sailboat that he built from Newport Beach, California to Hawaii. Of course, we had to ask him to be on the podcast, and he agreed. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoy. So this is the Swell Pod on the Kiln Road Trip on a journey to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious people. And we are lucky enough to have come across Dale, who has what we think is a nice pleasantly rebellious story. So if you can, Dale, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, this journey?
Sure. My name's Dale Bowman, and I live in Southern California. I've been a sailor since I would say I was 11 years old on my first boat that my dad and I built, little plywood sailboat. Then I had an 18-foot racing catamaran, had that for several years, and I just love sailing. I've always been a sailor, and I have to be by the ocean no matter what. So when I was 27, I designed a 25-foot trimaran, and took me about 6 months doing research on the construction method, which was very advanced at that time. Now it's not, but at that time it was. It's built like a surfboard with foam and then 2 layers of fiberglass. So very light, very strong. 25 feet long and 18 feet wide because it has 3 hulls. So very stable and pretty quick. But she was designed for weekends primarily and day sailing. Newport is like 26 miles from Catalina. So I did about 100 Catalina trips in the boat and then some of the other islands around that area. But that really wasn't enough for me, and I started looking south. I wound up sailing her to Cabo San Lucas, which is 1,000 miles, but you can stop along the way. So we stopped. I took my friend Jesse. We stopped like five nights on that trip. A couple years later, I did another trip around Baja California with my brother. That was a 5-week trip, 1,600 miles. Wow. And this is on a small boat, not designed for that. And then a couple of years after that, I single-handed from Newport to Cabo San Lucas.
Whoa.
So again, 1,000 miles. So that was my ultimate adventure. I didn't think I would ever do that again.
And you said...
I even put it in writing that And
Did he tell you that?
You did.
Well, I kept a logbook, which was the real stuff. Well, maybe that wasn't the real stuff. It was just factual. But then in a notebook, I wrote to Cindy like every day. And like really expressing how I felt. And like she gave me these cards to open, like if you're scared, open this one. If you're, lonely, open this one. So after about 5 days, I opened the first one. I just started, tears just streaming out onto the notebook. And if you looked at it's funny now because all the ink ran. But anyway, that was a tough trip. And I thought I would never do it again. And I said, if I ever want to do it again, I want you to pull that notebook out and make me read it. So it didn't work because I've started to get older, obviously. I wanted a bigger boat. I would like to have a 45-foot boat to make the trip to Hawaii, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I had the one boat. She was getting old. I was getting old. It's like, we got to go to Hawaii now or we're never going to do it. So in July of 2019, we went ahead and set out. Took about a year of planning. Cindy did all my provisioning. So the boat, much smaller than the inside of your van.
Wow.
I mean, much smaller. It's like a station wagon inside. But I had 30 days of food and water without rationing that she got for me, and we stored it on the boat. People told me that I would be killed if I tried it on that boat, but I knew I wouldn't die. I just wasn't positive that I would make it. So it was an exciting trip. On the third night, I got hit by my first storm, and it was a bad one, the worst one I'd ever been in. And a couple of really dangerous things happened. I had 2 surfing experiences down waves where I hit the highest speed I had ever hit on the boat, 18.6 knots if you sail. But eventually it passed. About a couple days later, the backstay that supports the mast from the back, it popped 3 of the 19 strands.
Whoa.
And when that happens, I mean, if the 19 won't hold it, 16's not going to hold it. So it was doomed, basically. So I took the ropes that, I used to control the mainsail, and I brought them to the back of the boat, tied them off. That supported the mast. But I couldn't use my mainsail after that, only the forward sail, the jib. So I knew it would slow me down, and I figured it would add a week to the trip, which it did. It added a week. But, after a couple days, I settled in. It's like, okay, we're going slower, but we're going to still be able to complete the trip. And then a hurricane that my son had been watching a storm with a weather router that he had hired, actually, a professional. They were watching this storm that started in Mexico, and it was moving northwest toward me. So it was moving at 15 knots, and I'm moving at like 4 to 5 knots. And after about 4 or 5 days, it turned into a hurricane, and a Category 4 hurricane heading right for me, which would have killed me instantly. And if that weren't enough, a second hurricane developed. It was a Category 1, so I had 2 hurricanes coming at me, and it's a tiny little boat that I couldn't go fast enough to get out of their way. So it was pretty scary. It was very intense. Fortunately, I had a satellite phone. I talked to Cindy and to my son Jason every day. Talked about the weather, with the weather routing that he was doing with this guy, and talking to Cindy. So that helped a lot emotionally. I'd never had that before, the satellite phone, so it made a big difference to my mental state. But it was scary. Ultimately, they figured one of the Hurricane Eric was going to drop south of me, and Hurricane Flossie was going to go north of me, just behind me, and I would be right in here. So they told me, don't speed up, don't slow down, we're going to thread the needle. So that it means, just in between the 2 hurricanes. So I never got directly hit at all. I mean, I got a few waves from Eric, which were like 20 feet, over 20 feet, but I didn't get any of the strong winds, so the waves weren't breaking. It wasn't dangerous, but knowing how bad they could get if the wind hit me also was a scary part. So anyway, what I thought would be a 14-day trip turned out to be 22 days. But on the 22nd day, we sailed into Waikiki, a beautiful, calm, sunny day. I had a dock waiting for us. Cindy was on the dock waiting for me.
Crying uncontrollably.
And it was incredible. So it's the highlight of my life, really, in a lot of ways. I mean, the scariest thing I've ever done, the hardest thing I've ever done, but the most gratifying thing I've ever done. I said nothing worthwhile is easy.
It's beautiful and incredible. And
what a story.
Yeah. What was it that...
thinking why?
Yeah, we're thinking the exact same thing. So what was it that really compelled you to take this journey on this boat that you made that was longer than anything you've ever done before?
Yeah, because you said you had to do it. Why?
It's hard to explain, honestly. It's just something that was in me. I think it was to prove to myself I could do it. Because it had always been my goal, and it was like slipping away. I'm 70 now. I've had some, health issues lately. If I hadn't done it then, it wouldn't have happened.
Any other reasons why, like, you can see why, like, why you did it?
Well, I remember when I was 11, my dad had a subscription to Yachting Magazine, and he was an airline pilot. And when he left on trips, I would go in his room and I would read his sailing magazines. And there was one article about a catamaran, similar to mine, but much bigger, with a bunch of surfers. There were like 6 or 8 guys sailed it from LA to Hawaii. And they just had a blast. And they were surfers. The catamaran would surf, and they were having so much fun. They were fighting over who got to steer. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do that someday. I have to do that. And I think that's when it started.
And
And
it's free spirit,
from-
kind of like, making you a free spirit or whatever.
The boat's name is Free Spirit.
For my whole life after that, my goal was eventually to sail to Hawaii. So,
That's incredible. Can we ask?
I wonder what your dad would have thought.
well, I think he was up there. He passed away a long time ago from cancer. He was 50. But he flew to Hawaii, from LA to Hawaii, hundreds of times. So I kept looking up, but I only saw 2 airplanes on the whole trip. No whales,
With him too.
But you had, who traveled with you? So was you,
just me.
just yourself?
It was a single-handed trip, but my sister had passed away.
Right,
She always
right.
wanted to
So
go to
two-
Hawaii.
She was there.
So I had some ashes of hers that once we got there, we did a little ceremony, 3 miles out of Oahu.
Can we ask you a question? Do you want to pop in here real quick?
Okay.
So over the journey, what?
Crying here.
Yeah.
It's very emotional for me to.
Yeah, I bet.
What did you learn through the journey?
What did I learn?
Yeah. What did you learn?
That not to believe him when he says I'm never going to do this again. Because we've been looking for boats too now and stuff. And he's going, well, I'd only have to go through the Panama Canal. And I'm like, oh, I just, I don't trust him when he says he'll never do it again. But I always knew that he was he's a very strong man, and this is my second marriage, and he kind of saved my life, and he says I saved his. So, I just think that our marriage got stronger and everything,
That's beautiful. You have something?
I would like to do this trip again on a 40-foot boat with Cindy, but she says that's not happening.
I'm a land lover. I need land in sight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I suspect, if we had longer, we'd talk to your grandkids, right?
Yeah.
But they, I can imagine that the why is actually maybe something you don't understand fully.
Why you did it?
No. I mean, what I'm saying is, like years to come, those lessons of perseverance and going off and doing difficult things may be good lessons for your kids to do, to your grandkids to know that they can do difficult
They've
things.
grown up with the boat too. They've done Catalina trips with us.
First fish on a boat? Nice, dude.
They were on the dock when
Oh,
I
yeah.
left.
Whoa.
We got them little fishing poles when they're little, and we sit on the mooring and fish, see what we could catch. But so they've grown up with the boat, and on the video that he made on YouTube, they're on the dock, saying goodbye, Papa, kind of thing. So
Cindy's there too,
real
and she
cute.
says, "Goodbye, boat."
yeah, why didn't you say goodbye, honey? It's just because I knew you were coming back. I just had faith in you.
Are there still pictures of the? So two quick questions. Are there still pictures of the journal that you had with the tears on it? And do you still have that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you still got that.
Yeah.
And on the journey to Hawaii, did you leave like these little things that he could open throughout the journey as well?
Well, it's funny you say that because my girlfriend came from New York and came to visit us, and so we went to the store and I read about what different foods, like pumpkin seeds and tuna and all this stuff's good for you and your brain, and so you don't go crazy out there, right, kind of thing. And so I tried to pack them, foods based on different categories, and so we went to go get some Star-Kissed tuna packets, and we said, oh, we're going to write on them. So we wrote on them, and so in the video that he made on YouTube, there's one of the packets from my girlfriend Carla, and she says, Cindy misses you.
So
cute.
I never cooked on the trip. So
Yeah.
everything I ate was, mostly for the most part packaged. easy things.
But we had, I contacted this company, Chef Minute Meals, and they're so cool because you can just take them out of the box and you put this little activated pad on there and put it back in for 5-10 minutes and your food gets warm.
Heats up, yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll give them something to look forward to. So we packed 10 of those, right? They're pretty expensive.
I think it was 12, so I had like 12 hot meals out of my 22 days.
So something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I packed them cookies, and I said, you can only eat this many a day. If you eat more than that, you're going to be sad at the end of the trip.
But I had lots of food and lots of water left when I got to Hawaii.
Yeah,
so
we just gave it
did a
away
good
to
job.
some of the homeless people there and stuff, and people on the docks. So
That's good. Well, we really appreciate you. Did you have something else?
Well, there's no point in asking about what was the most pleasantly rebellious thing you did, because this is probably it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pleasant because you weren't being rebellious, but you were trying something that most people wouldn't even consider, and then you were also
being
supporting.
rebellious because I didn't want him to go. So he was definitely rebellious.
Well, and when that wire broke, I was 5 days out when I discovered it, and I could have turned around because I had from that point about 600 miles back, but it's upwind, or I could continue downwind to Hawaii for 1,800 miles. That was a big decision, and I called Cindy to talk to her. What do you think I should do? And talked to our two sons, and got their opinions as well. But during that time, I decided that the best course is to head to Hawaii. So.
And I have to say, at
worked out well.
one point, my son and I, the one that was doing the weather routing, I decided to call the Coast Guard, but so I called the Coast Guard here, and they said, "Oh no, he's past here. You have to call Hawaii Coast Guard." So we did, and I just didn't want to pick him up because I knew he wouldn't go, no matter how bad it got. He was going to go down with the ship. I mean, she's his baby. It's his daughter. It was his daughter, And so anyway, when he says we in the video and stuff, he's meaning him and her. But so I just wanted them to know that he was out there somewhere.
Well, Jason called me, and he was a little bit kind of sheepish, and he said, "I hope you don't mind, but I called the Coast Guard just to let them know where you are and what your situation is with that broken wire." And I said, "No, I'm glad you did. We probably should have done it in the first place anyway." So no more than 5 minutes later, after Jason and I hung up, the Coast Guard called me on the sat phone. And they were so great. They just verified, the boat, an EPIRB, which is an emergency transmitter. It's not a transmitter. Well, it does transmit. It's not a receiver. But it's through satellites, and they can pinpoint your position anywhere in the world immediately. So I had one, of course, and we just verified that it was working and the number. And he asked me if I was in imminent danger, and I said, no, everything's fine, so I didn't need any help.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we're going to go ahead and track you the rest of the way to Hawaii. And he says, if you get in trouble, activate your EPIRB, we will come out there and get you. And it was so comforting, just his attitude.
He said, no way I'm doing
I said, thanks, but no thanks. Not. I don't need
to
it.
me,
but,
anyway.
But it was great to know they were there like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was sailing since a kid, racing and stuff, in Palos Verdes and stuff. And so it's always been in his blood.
That's incredible. Well, we really appreciate you guys joining us. To learn more about it, they can go to YouTube and they can search Dale Bowman Trimaran.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we do have one last question. So the same question we ask everybody that comes on our podcast during this road trip. I might modify it slightly, but what does it take to create something that never existed before, or do something that maybe some might think to be impossible?
What does it?
I think it just has to be something you want to do. When I designed and built the boat, I could have bought a boat, lots of used boats. I could have bought one and been out sailing the next day. But I wanted a special kind of boat that nobody else had, with my own ideas. And so it was a 4.5-year project. But the boat became part of our family, honestly, and it's an amazing story.
So many family members have been on it. 40 years.
5 generations. Yeah. My parents have been on it. And
mine.
And our kids and grandkids, and now we have a great-granddaughter. We don't have the boat though now.
Yeah.
So, so she was 38 when I made the crossing, and we decided that we would donate her in Hawaii. That would be a fitting end to her, for our part of our lives.
But it didn't work out, so we...
But they couldn't take her because the slip rent is so expensive. So we wound up selling her. It took a while because it's not a great market over there, but we sold her. So our plan was to come home and maybe in a year buy a new boat. Yeah. So 4 years later, we're still working on that.
With your question, one thing I've always told my kids, and I guess I probably told it to my husband throughout the years, and I probably shouldn't have, but I told him that if there's anything that you really, really want, like, oh, Mom, I want to do this when I grow up, and like Grady would love to be a football player, right? And I said, if you ever want to do that, then you have to really want to do it, and you will make it happen,
Just never give up.
You don't give up. You just go for it, So I think that's
what we try to teach our kids. If there's something you want or you want to do, just never give up.
Yeah. So
do it your way, which is what is beautiful. And I also like the idea, Josh, of your notes. You might need to write those notes for someone that's creating a business or an adventure or a journey, or for your future kids, like little notes to just that extra little bit.
Yeah. So when he was gone, I would do a daily blog. And I made my Facebook page, open, it wasn't. So anyway, we know people in Spain and stuff, and so they could share it with their friends and stuff. And then he would write his journal whenever he could, when it wasn't too rough. So I'd like to match those days up, what I thought that day. And he kept asking me, well, why are you asking me what I'm eating? It's like, because I want to put it in my journal. I didn't tell him that. So, yeah. But anyway, so just to write those things down and keep notes of it. So,
well, what an unexpected pleasure.
She was great support to me.
Thank you.
You can feel the love between you, and maybe these moments were not easy, right? You probably hated some things, but like somehow, the love is deeper now because of difficult things that you've overcome together. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you guys. Dale and Cindy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Before we get into the rest of the episode, we want to thank the partners and sponsors who made the Kiln Road Trip possible. The Kiln Road Trip is brought to you by Kiln. Kiln is a boutique co-working and flex office community with 13 locations in 6 states across the West, dedicated to providing innovative workspaces that empower your team to thrive. Whether you're a solo visionary or an enterprise-level team of up to 100, Kiln transcends being merely a place to work. It's a hub for learning and connecting with like-minded professionals that will make you and your team love where you work.
And if you haven't stepped foot inside a kiln yet, you really need to. On this road trip, we visited every single location, and trust us when we say once you see these beautifully designed spaces, meet the talented team, and connect with fellow members, you won't want to work anywhere else.
Locations include Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, California, and Arizona. And they're growing too, with multiple locations set to open in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the kiln locations nearest you by booking a tour at kiln.com and answer Swell in the question, how did you hear about us? Once you complete the tour, you'll be entered into a competition where you could win a 1-year membership, their club membership at Kiln.
Yep, you heard that. That's kiln.com, book a tour, and be sure to mention Swell in the question, how did you hear about us?
The Kiln Road Trip is also brought to you by Moterra Campervans, a luxury campervan rental company for iconic road trips. Their top-of-the-line vans are available at 7 locations located near America's best outdoor adventure destinations. They have consistently earned the highest customer ratings in the industry, making Moterra Campervans your gateway to adventure without sacrificing on comfort or service.
That's true, and initially we wanted to take this journey in a 1960s VW bus, but thankfully we found Moterra instead. With 3 van options, we took the Pop Top Classic, which sleeps 4 and is best for those who want to maximize floor space and storage. This was critical for us because it needed to sleep the entire crew, we needed space to edit, and we were traveling with large amounts of equipment, luggage, and other goodies that we picked up along the way.
And this van took us through all 3,580 miles of the trip. Super comfortable and sweet to drive.
And actually, Moterra offers fully planned itineraries if you'd rather leave the planning to someone someone else.
Visit gomotera.com/swell. That's gomotera.com/swell.
This episode is also brought to you by Taurus. Taurus is leading the charge in home energy storage. Taurus makes it easy to achieve energy independence and a greener tomorrow. The Taurus station provides everything you need to generate clean power, efficiently store electricity, and easily manage your energy use.
And installing a Taurus station offers plenty of benefits, including save money on your electricity bill,
Also, ensure energy security with backup power during outages.
reduce carbon emissions with renewables,
You can also automate EV charging and HVAC systems with 100% renewables.
and enjoy unrivaled system monitoring and support.
If you like the sound of those benefits, get a quote to build your Taurus station in less than 30 seconds. Super easy at taurus.co. That's TORUS.co. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in two ways. One, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, at the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.